replied, "Of course it's wrong. Remember, when humans ascend, they are still human. When they fall, they are still human." I was literally just saying this in my first checking for the second book, that the dealings of these heavenly officials are so dramatic because even though they've ascended, deep down they're still humans. They're basically just humans with more power and authority to deal with all of their messes. I mean, take Pei Ming, for example. He was a man whore as a human. He ascended, he is still a man whore. Hello and welcome or welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Open and I love talking about things I love and enjoy. The sun is being pretty generous this morning, so I thought this was as good as place as any to film this portion of the video. So the time is currently 9 a.m. on Friday, the 1st of September. I work at a job that usually gives me the opportunity to work a flexible schedule where I have... Okay, Siri. Where I have every other Friday off, and with Monday being Labor Day, I have a 4-day weekend. Usually I try to get in some travel there because it's not an opportunity I get very often, but my travel plans got derailed, and this just seemed like the perfect substitute to travel plans. I mean, why not read for 24 hours, right? I'm totally normal, but I've been seeing a lot of people doing this. I've never done one before, and I thought it would be a really cool challenge to do. I'm planning to read TGCF and only TGCF because I've never read it. I got introduced to TGCF back when the donghua came out. I was already used to like manga, manhwa, and the likes, anime at the time, but I wasn't like very familiar with the Danmei scene. And after watching it, I did find out that there was a web novel, but I wasn't as invested in the characters at the time to go ahead and read the web novel. So when the book started coming out in English back in 2021 and I saw it at Barnes & Noble, I started picking them up and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to buy all of this and read it when it's completed. At that time, it already had quite the popularity, and I feel like even though I don't know a lot of the story, I'm already invested in all of the characters. I have the first 6 books. The 7th book is due to come out on the 12th of September, so this is a really good time to try to read the first 6. And the 8th book, the last and final book of the series, is going to be out in November. So TGCF is going to be complete by the end of the year, which is bittersweet, I'm sure, for a lot of fans. So that's my background on TGCF, and that's why I want to read it, because I already have the 6 books. The 7th book is coming out soon. The series is going to get wrapped up by the end of the year. And I have 24 hours to read. Like, duh. It just seemed like the right thing to do. I should, however, mention that my reading pace hasn't been all that great recently, so I am thinking that I will probably read about 3 to 4 of the 6 books in this 24 hours. 6 of them is going to be overkill and I'm probably not going to get anything in. But I'm also trying to annotate a lot more these days because I just find that I retain a lot of information from the books that way, and it definitely exponentially improves my reading experience and enjoyment. So annotating is probably going to cut down some reading time as well. Again, I'm going to shoot for reading 3 of the 4 books. I would like to start reading at home, but I get distracted easily. I've had the attention span of a goldfish recently, so I'm going to head out to a coffee shop right next to me. I usually go to a local coffee shop, but a Starbucks opened right next to me recently, so I'm going to go there instead. And before I head out, I'm just going to grab my books, pack my bag, and show you where I have TGCF. Okay, so this is my Danmei/BL shelf. I'm going to pick the first 2 books of the series because I am not a rookie. I mean, what if I end up spending more time than I expected at Starbucks and I finish the first book before I actually head home? I will grab the first 2 and put those acrylic stands back on the remaining 2 and pack my bags. Awesome. 2, beautiful. Book 1, absolutely gorgeous. True buy. Let's head out. So I'm back at home because honestly, the coffee shop was more distracting than being at home. I was hardly getting any reading done. I got like 10 pages in 30 minutes. It wasn't a whole lot. I think a lot of people are just fascinated by the fact that the Starbucks is new. So it had a lot of traffic and I completely forgot, but I have not had breakfast today. The last time I ate was at like 2 p.m. yesterday, so I'm pretty hungry. I'm just going to get something to eat. I bought some tiramisu cake earlier this morning that I'm gonna have with my coffee. And then I'm just going to settle in and hope for the best. So sad, it makes me want to cry. I'm just started. So I'm exactly about 2 hours into reading and I've only made it to about 75 pages because of the mishap of the morning. I'm really enjoying the book, but it's going really slowly and I have moved to my bedroom for the time being because this is more comfortable. Honestly, a lot of furniture in my apartment is just terrible. They're not comfortable for reading at all, so I'm hoping this will go a little bit better. I'm really enjoying it. The prologue was really sad. I already pretty familiar with the story, but reading it again just made me really sad. Like Xiaolian's backstory of being like this really venerated young warrior who ascended really early and then having to be banished 2 times, which is unheard of, so he became like a laughing stock. It's funny, but it's also really sad. Like honestly, reading it made me want to cry a little bit. And the adaptation of the donghua was actually really good. They managed to get a lot of the details in the novel in the donghua and they were able to cover that. So yeah, I'm really excited to read it, although I'm getting like a little bit more deep information than I did watching the donghua. And tabbing is going really nicely. I don't know how much you can see that, but yeah, I'm tabbing the books, which is making things go a little bit slower, but it's also making sure that I can get all the details of the story pretty well. And I know that the first season of the donghua covers about half of this book, so I can't wait to get caught up. I don't know how long this is going to take, but this is probably going to be much slower than I anticipated. But yeah, back to reading. A little bit after a 4-hour check-in, the time is currently 2 p.m. and I came out for an energy drink and also to make some lunch. Nothing serious. I'm not really planning to cook today. I'm just baking some frozen pizza. I am 200 pages into the first book. Again, annotating is really taking a lot of time and well, it's just taking me a while to get into reading. I'm hoping I can finish reading this in well, 6 hours is probably a stretch at this point. Maybe sometime after 3, maybe like 4 p.m.-ish. But yeah, I'm enjoying it. We're almost getting to the point where the donghua ends. We're right where San Long or Hua Chong painted Xie Lian's portrait in his shrine. And something that was really interesting to read here was how isolated Xie Lian feels in the heavenly realm. I thought it was just a little bit strange. His banishment wasn't really his fault, and it's not like he did anything wrong. So I can't really understand why he's isolated by all the other officials. I mean, I get it. I probably don't want to associate with someone who's kind of seen as a god of calamity or someone who just has really bad luck. But I don't know. It was really sad to read about that. He just makes me want to hug him. But yeah, that's what's going on so far. There really isn't that much to talk about. Everything I've read so far, anyone who's familiar with Heaven Official's Blessing is probably familiar with because it was covered in the donghua. But that's about it. I will now go ahead to drink my energy drink that I ended up getting this morning. Oh, in the video, I probably showed Alani Nu instead of Celsius, but I ended up going with Celsius. They have the same amount of caffeine and they were doing a 3 for $6 sale on this at Kroger. I have the peach vibe one here. I feel like it's gonna make me feel like I'm drinking like a margarita or something. Yeah, it tastes really good. I love it. I'll try to drink about 2 of them, see how that sustains me. I'll drink this one right now and then later, probably like 12 to 16 hours into this, I'll drink another one if I'm feeling really sleepy. I would just prefer to do like the 24 hours in one fail swoop without having to extend this into 2 to 3 days because I want to be productive the rest of the weekend. So yeah, I'm gonna grab something to eat, go right back to eating, and then come back with another update when I'm done reading this book and what time it is at that point. See ya. Okay, I finally finished reading the first book. The time is currently 5:25, so just almost 8 hours since I started reading it. Honestly, it's kind of shocking how fast time has passed, like just from reading a book, but I'm also shocked by how long it took me to read this. I think it's mostly because, again, I get distracted pretty easily annotating, like I mentioned, and there's a lot of world building and names in this book, so it requires quite a bit of focus. But I really enjoyed this, and I don't know where I got my information from that the donghua only covers about half of this. If anything, I think most of what's in this first book is covered in the first season of the donghua. And things that stand out, I think when you think of heavenly officials, you probably expect them to handle their matters a little bit more in a dignified manner, I guess, with more dignity. But ultimately, these people used to be human beings, and the happenings of their sector or area of the world is just as dramatic and I guess scandalous as human matters. So that's always very interesting to read, all the conflict that feels like it can be resolved with just a little bit of goodwill. It's really interesting to read. And it's sad to see how all the misfortune that has happened to Shilian has kind of changed him. Someone who used to be filled with so much conviction and wanted to save the common people now thinks of that kind of thing as silly because of everything that has happened to him. And although it's really sad that someone who used to be so revered is now like the lowest of the low and the laughing stock of the three realms, it's also kind of endearing that he's so relatable, but fundamentally the person he is hasn't really changed. He's still a really kind and compassionate person who is able to think of people beyond himself, and he doesn't really care too much for how others view him. He has just kind of given up on that. He never really cared, but is not caring now comes from a place of, well, I guess this is just my life now. It's always going to be misfortune or bad luck, which is sad again, but also kind of endearing. And there are a couple of things that he says here that just makes me love him even more. Like, so there's a quote here that he says where what's his name, Fu Yao and Nanfeng are talking about, like, don't you know that person next to you in about what's his name, San Lang, or is it Hua Chang? Oh my god, there are so many names in this book. And he's like, doesn't he strike you as an odd person? And he's like, oh, there are all kinds of people with various temperaments and mannerisms in the world. Odd doesn't mean dangerous. Look at me, I'm odd in everyone's eyes, but do you think I'm dangerous? So he knows that he's odd in everyone's eyes, and he has just kind of accepted that. Again, sad, but also kind of endearing. And when he realizes who San Lang is, he says it's not important whether you're human or not. Forming a friendship should depend on how well two people hit it off and how well their personalities match, not their identities. If I like you, you could be a beggar and I'd still like you. If I dislike you, you could be the emperor and I'd still dislike you. Shouldn't it be like that? It's simple logic. So whether you're human or not is irrelevant. Fundamentally, I think that's who he has always been. So it's really cool to see that. And I feel like a lot of the book really focused on Xie as a character, not so much on San Lang. So we don't really know a lot about him just yet, but still, again, there is a quote in the book that shows you deep down who he is. He's someone who really, really loves and cares about Xie. So right here, where they're talking about like ghost ashes and how that's the only weakness that ghosts have, and he's saying they have a custom in the ghost realm where if a ghost has a special person, they entrust their ashes to that person. And Xie is like, it certainly is painful to think about it, to have given everything for love and lose everything in return. Meaning, if the person that you give your ashes to uses it against you and you end up dying. And he just laughs and is like, what's there to be afraid of? If it were me, I'd have no regrets giving away my ashes. Who cares if they want me to disintegrate or just scatter the ashes for fun? So he's the kind of person, when he loves, I guess he's all in. He's already thinking about Xie in that situation, and you can just tell. It's just like, well, if I give you my ashes, like, you can do whatever you want with it. Like, basically, my life is yours at that point. They're so cute. But yeah, there is a lot to cover in this because you have like 800 years or maybe even more between their first meeting to the current time that is being covered in this first book. So there is a lot to uncover and unpack in the series in between those 800 years. This is going to be a ride. And like I said at the beginning of the video, I'm only probably going to be able to do about 3 or 4 of these books. 3, if I'm even going to be able to finish those 3 books, because we're already 8 hours in and I've only finished this one book. So yeah, I am going to start the second one. That's upside down. I'm going to go ahead and start the second one, and the time is currently 5:35-ish. I guess I'll come back during the 12-hour mark and we can see how far I've gotten. But first, I want to check in with my sister. She just got back home recently. So yeah, see you at the 12-hour mark. Bye. Time to read book 2. I don't know, I just feel like it's nice to take you through the cover and everything, since they have such amazing illustration in this book. So let's look at the cover again and then flip inside for a full illustration of that cover. It is so beautiful. You can see Xie Lian's gold mask that flew off when he caught Hua Chong during the procession. So beautiful. And then this really cute ones here as well. I love them so much. That is so adorable. Okay, now to get to reading book 2. And I'll be back at the 12-hour mark, 9:35. See you then. This is my 3rd time trying to film this halfway check-in, so I'm just going to try to blow through it. Basically, I'm over halfway into book 2 and I'm on track to finish book 2 and hopefully book 3 as well. I feel very energetic, feel very much awake. You can probably tell from how I look and how fast I'm talking. I just want to make sure I don't spend too much time doing this and lose some of my reading time. But yeah, it's going well. I'm not going to bank on my energy staying this way for the rest of the 24 hours. But when I start reading the 3rd book, I'm going to take another energy drink to get me through the rest of the time. The 2nd book is going really well. We had some really cute, sweet moments between Hua Chong and Xie Lian, and things started to go a little bit awry with their mission in Ghost City and all of that good stuff. I've pretty much got up to where the manhua is right now, and I've gone a little bit past it. So yeah, it's going enjoyable. My next check-in is going to be at the end of book 2 and when I pick up book 3, and then my final check-in for the 24 hours is going to be hopefully at the end of book 3 and me wrapping up the video because the 24-hour count is over. But yeah, that's it. See you at the next check-in. Okay, my check-in after finishing book 2. The time is currently a little bit after 1 a.m. So I'm just about 30 minutes shy of the 16-hour mark. And I had a feeling I was going to finish reading this 2nd book a little bit faster. So I went ahead to take a shower, change into my nightwear, and my hair down. So when all of this is over, I can just go straight to bed. But this is a really great book. I feel more invested in the story than I did reading the first one. And I think the first book I was actually also speeding through it a little bit because a lot of that was covered in the donghua. So there was a little bit of scheming in that part as well. Even in the 2nd book, I felt like I was also rushing through it to get to a very specific portion of the story, which is where you get Xie Lian and Hua Chong's backstory of how they met each other and how it ties into the current event of things. Because like I mentioned when I was reading the first book, or maybe it was the first part of the 2nd book, you have like 800 years or more of time between them first meeting each other and what is going on right now. So having that backstory and knowing what you know now really kind of ties things together, and then you can start delving into what happened in between that timeline. And I think the 2nd arc of the story that you get at the end of book 2, is it the God-pleasing Crown Prince, I think, really gives you that. In fact, I just had a mini cry session reading like the last 50 pages of this book. It has so many good quotes, especially the part where they start getting into how They're talking about Hua Chang's fate and him having a fate of the sign of the Star of Solitude, how he's destined to bring destruction to all save for himself. It was really sad reading that. And just tying it back to the part where he's talking to Xie and how it's like to some people, the existence of others is hope itself. So reading that last part of the story and tying it back to that portion where they're talking, having that conversation about the existence of someone being hope itself to others. I'm like, oh my god, this is so sad. And also at the end when the state preceptor is talking to Prince Xie, or is his name Xie at that point? Is it Shanle? Or maybe it's Xie, I can't remember. I just read it, but I can't remember. But yeah, he was very idealistic. He wanted to save everyone, but he's still very young, and his Shizun is trying to tell him that, do you think you're the first person to think that way? Why do you think they failed at it? And seeing him be so confident in everything he can achieve, but seeing who he is right now, oh my god, it is just so sad. And I imagine this is probably the part of the story where everyone got so invested to continue reading. Like, okay, we got this backstory and we know where Hua Chang and Xie are right now. So what happened between that time frame and what is the future going to look like for the both of them? Yeah, this was some pretty hard-hitting emotional stuff. I'm ready to read the rest of the book. So let's see. I'm going to pick up the third book and just go ahead and pick my tabs for the third book. And my next check-in will be at the end of the third book. All right, see you. Okay, so another thing that I forgot to mention was this conversation between Xie and the state preceptor at the end of the book. So right here. Your Highness, throughout the ages, there's a saying that's been passed down like it's self-evident truth, but it's actually wrong and no one has ever noticed. What saying? When humans ascend, they become gods. When humans fall, they become ghosts. Xie Lian gave it some thought. Is there something wrong with that? The state preceptor replied, of course it's wrong. Remember, when humans ascend, they are still human. When they fall, they are still human. I was literally just saying this in my first check-in for the second book, that the dealings of these heavenly officials are so dramatic because even though they've ascended, deep down they're still humans. You're basically just humans with more power and authority to deal with all of their messes. I mean, take Pei Ming, for example. He was a man whore as a human. He ascended, he is still a man whore. And I'm just reading this like, how the hell is this man a heavenly official? Like, is the only criteria to ascend just being good at something? Aren't there moral values included in becoming a heavenly official? Because how the hell is Pei Ming the man whore a heavenly official? Like, I don't get it. So yeah, like I was literally just saying this. So ending the book on that note was really just, I'm like, yeah, I said it. Like, it's basically like reading about human beings, just human beings with more power. So everything almost feels more heightened. Like a lot of what they're going through, a lot of their emotions, a lot of what they're struggling through feels more heightened. But even throughout the book, you can see Xie Lian talking about like how there's no difference between gods, ghosts, and humans. Like everyone has their problems. At the end of the day, they are all human beings. It's just a matter of how they're viewed and how they handle everything that they're going through. Honestly, this is such a good book. And also, fucking Shirong, like, what is wrong with that guy? Like, I was just reading everything and all the shenanigans he was doing in this book, and I'm just like, what? How is that Xie Lian's cousin? Like, what? How? He is such a terrible person. Why? I don't know what else to say about that, but yeah, that's the end of this check-in. Bye. Okay, final 8-hour sprint with my companion. Energy drink, tropical vibe this time. I don't really care how it tastes, just that it gets me through this. Let's see the third book spread cover. Absolutely beautiful. Full cover illustration, gorgeous. And that super adorable one right here that I love. Ugh, so cute. And for tabs, this is the one I used for the first two books, but one is completely gone and the others are like super flat. So I'm switching to this one for this second book. It also really matches the color scheme, so I like that. I already went ahead to add tabs to this book right here. It's pretty much the same as the other one. So just Xie Lian, Hua Chong, plot and world building, quotes, review, and summary. Let's get it. I'll be back when I'm done. Bye. Okay, last and final check-in in the video. I have just a little over 6 minutes left in the 24 hours, which is perfect. I finished all 3 books. That third book was really hard to read because I was just bawling my eyes out reading the rest of the second arc that started in the second book with Xie Lian's decision to basically descend to the mortal realm during his first ascension and everything that went on with the Xianle kingdom and him deciding to interfere with the whatever was going on. If you know the story, you know what happened, but I was bawling my eyes out so hard. I actually started to feel sleepy around like 4 to 5 a.m. I think that definitely played a part in how sleepy I started to feel. And it was just so painful to see someone who was so confident lose confidence in himself after people also lost confidence in him. It was painful. Like I was crying really hard. But after that ended, we got into the third arc and things got to like a little bit of a lighter note, especially with like the Battle of Lanterns where Hua Chong sent him 3,000 lanterns. That was so sweet. Even before they said who sent it, like I already knew that was like, who else could it be? It had to be his boyfriend. So yeah, I'm really excited. I was able to finish all 3 books. I can't wait to read the remaining 3. And I am feeling super sleepy. I'm going to go to bed right now. And whatever day you find yourself watching this, make it a great one. More Danmei content to come. Bye.